Hey, welcome to Home Organizing for Beginners. I'm Tammy, your home organizing educator. Today I want you to grab a pen and paper and be ready to take some notes. I am going to throw 3 fast decluttering tips at you, and I want you to take notes because you are going to get done listening and you are going to go do these 3 super fast decluttering tips. The reason you want to do these is to feel more organized and less overwhelmed. When our homes are chaotic, whether it's physically chaotic and there's papers and stuff laying all over the place, maybe all the pillows are on the floor and the blankets, our counters are all full of dirty dishes, we just can feel overwhelmed. Maybe it's not always like that for you, but maybe it is. These 3 tips are going to help you work through it. So tip number 1, clear the clutter as much as possible. I'm not talking about a complete decluttering of your entire house or even your entire kitchen. Whatever is really driving you crazy that's laying around on the countertops, you're going to clear the clutter. You're going to get rid of it. You don't have to decide everything to do with it right now. It doesn't need to be put in its ultimate home. The goal is to feel less overwhelmed right now. This is going to make it so that you can sit down and just really think about what your priorities are, what the things are that you need to do. But with the mess laying around, that feels impossible right now. So clearing the clutter as much as possible, you're going to stack things up. If you have paperwork all over the counter, like I do sometimes, you're going to go ahead and stack it up and put it in a box. Now that clutter is gone. Let's say where you're walking into the house, shoes are laying everywhere. That seems to be the theme in my house these days. We just walk in the door, kick off our shoes, and go do our thing, right? So instead of leaving them lay out, you can kind of just push them under the bench, maybe tuck them into a bin. It really is just to get them out of the way for now so that you feel less overwhelmed. Does that make sense? So tip number 1 was clear the clutter as much as possible. Tip number 2, find the floor. Very often in my house, and I think your household is probably a lot like mine, the kids will be using blankets. Even in the middle of summer, we have our air conditioning on and the kids seem to get cold, or even myself, I get cold as well. But then the blankets end up on the floor, the pillows that were on the couches end up on the floor, or for whatever reason, there are books laying on the floor. When you clear the floor, things feel a little less chaotic. Okay, so tip number 2 is find the floor. It's simply picking the stuff up that is laying on the floor in the living room or in the kitchen or in the dining room. Okay, these are quick hit items. These are quick things that you can do in the main areas of your home so that you feel less stressed. Tip number 3, function over fashion. I want you to fully understand what it means to focus on the function over the fashion. Very often, we want things to look nice. We want them to be aesthetically pleasing, and that's okay. We do want to get to that point, but you don't want that to be your starting point. Instead, right now, you are doing quick hit items. You're going to focus on the function because you have to think a little bit about how you function in the space that you're trying to clear the clutter from. Okay, so if you walk into the house and you have mail in your hand, it's okay to set it on that counter, right? You're going to focus on the function over the fashion. So there is a small stack of papers sitting on the counter. That's okay because you know functionally it makes sense. So maybe I can explain this in more of a mindset shift way. Okay, Home Organizing for Beginners is a program where I teach you exactly what it means to focus on the function over the fashion and exactly how to make it happen. This shift helps you get your home organized in a way that will last and will easily be adjusted as your seasons of life change. In this example, you're in a season of life right now that is messy and chaotic, and summer is coming to an end. That's okay, because when you focus on the function, you know you can circle back around and make some tiny tweaks or make some modifications to your overall home organizing system, okay? And when you get stuck, I am there to help you through it. That alone is worth the price of the program, which is only $97 at this moment in time. So I'm going to drop a link in the show notes below, but let's talk a little bit more about function over fashion as tip number 3 within the chaotic environment. Okay, so it may feel a little bit like, well, this is a tough one. I have to think more about it. That's really not true at all, because when you're doing what you do without overthinking it, that's when you're doing things that come naturally. Okay, does that make sense? So, when you're doing what comes naturally, that is functional. The two really go hand in hand, or really mean the same thing, if you will. So, tip number 1, clear the clutter as much as possible. Stack it up, push it out of the way, put it behind closed doors, whatever you need to do to get the clutter under control so that it feels under control. Tip number 2, find the floor. Get the stuff picked up off the floor, set it onto the counter if you need to, put it in a box, put it in the closet, whatever needs to happen, but find the floor. Tip number 3, focus on the function over fashion. This tip is a total game changer, and I really want to dive deep into it with you, but I know you're super busy right now, as am I, and the timing has to be right. So go out and look at Home Organizing for Beginners, the course, where I teach you exactly what it means to focus on the function. That's what I have for you today. Go clear the clutter, find the floor, and focus on the function in your home. If these tips hit home with you today, I'd love to know about it. Would you be willing to leave me a 5-star review? Because that's how others find this podcast. That's how others are going to get the help that you are getting right now. Thanks so much for listening. Have a fun and productive weekend. I'll be back here next week sharing tangible and simple instructions about home organizing, cleaning, and time management. I'll see you then.